Dear participants, please allow me to welcome you. We are really happy to see you at our roundtable session, which is devoted to the search for leaders of the future. As you know, the topic of our forum is looking for priorities or setting priorities. It's true. We are undergoing a period of uncertainty in terms of both technology and social development, which does not only require to look for new social development models, but also for new technologies, management models. We need new human capital search models to be sure that we can rely upon young leaders of the future. Therefore, in the course of our discussion, we will address a kind of both philosophical and applied questions, such as the vision of the leader of the future. What is required from such leaders for businesses to have potential to develop? We'll try to make sure that our discussion is both interesting and educational. And now I'm passing it over to Nadezhda Ryabova. The floor is all yours. Thank you very much, Victor. I'm glad to welcome you at this session. We expect live discussion. The topic is very interesting. On the first day of the Gaidar Forum, in many sessions, including the business breakfast, at which both business leaders and representatives of the government met, the topic of talents of the future and leaders of the future proved to be one of the key topics. The transformations that we are undergoing are impossible without proper people. The human capital is the most important capital or asset which is desired, which is required to achieve success in those transformations. The role of the leader in notion of leadership has been defined by the business world in the past decade, including the development of potential, evaluation, model building. In the first place, we will hear from our distinguished speakers who will give us case studies, examples of specific companies. But most importantly, I'd like us to discuss today, if it's really possible, a universal leadership of the future model, or can it be applied to specific industries or verticals? If yes, can it be scaled out to be expanded beyond the frontiers of corporations, enterprises, to become nationwide model? It's a pretty ambitious task. I'd like to invite Anna Koshelova from Aviv. She's going to share with us the results of their study. The first point I'd like to make is thank you very much, dear speakers, for accepting our invitation, which means that we have been moving in the right direction. Initially, we wanted to organize a roundtable session called Looking for Leaders of the Future. We wanted to invite the most knowledgeable people from all industries, and then when we familiarized ourselves with the agenda of Gaidar Forum of this year, we found out that quite a few discussions were devoted to the same: innovation, leadership, what should be done, priority setting, and so forth. Okay, looking for leaders of the future. When preparing ourselves for this session, we engaged in a study called benchmarking approaches to employee potential evaluation. Why this topic? As Nadezhda mentioned, on the one hand, yes, very many people speak about inefficiency of education, saying that the output of our learning institutions do not make our business happy in terms of those people's skills, knowledge, and so forth. On the other hand, our businesses have accumulated best practices that can be scaled out. In this context of putting in place a global talent management system for Russia, why is it important? Just one point. Without that, we will not be able to start to become competitive. I'm not going to share with you the specific results of our study. It's a topic for an HR conference, and I encourage you to attend this conference when we organize it. Instead of that, I'd like to discuss the challenges or questions we should think about if we want to put in place a talent management system. And the first strata that we look at in our study, the first question that we ask to our customers implementing our project related to improvement of staff management improvement and so forth, what are your goals and objectives? If you look on the left-hand side of this graph, you will see those goals and objectives. More than 70% of the companies, the overwhelming majority, says that they are giving the highest priority to putting in place different reserves of staffing. I would like to draw your attention to a trend. Our study covers both Russian and Western companies, the Western companies that are present on the Russian marketplace. As to the Russian companies, there is a trend such as preemption. We ask them, do you evaluate your human capital potential? And they say yes. When we look at potential successors of our leaders, we examine their potential in terms of their efficiency and effectiveness, which effectiveness is the most important factor, success factor. In Western companies, the situation is slightly different. And the bigger weight is given to forming pools. They distinguish pool making and potential evaluation, which potential evaluation covers virtually all the employees. They monitor the effectiveness of their employees on an annual basis. There is methodology which may be attributed to our Russian mindset or our management culture. I'm not going to touch upon this topic. It's a separate topic requiring dedicated session. But I think that the approach pursued by the Russian companies today is actually about maintaining the existing situation. In other words, it is a business-as-usual approach. While Western companies are more dynamic in this sense, which model to choose if we want to put in place global human capital reserve? And I am sure we're going to get back to this topic with the help of our distinguished moderator this afternoon. Another question we asked to our participants, I have entitled this slide, "A talented individual is talented in many ways." What is included in potential models by different companies? We broke answers down by industries. It can be a vertical-related story, for example. We've been speaking about putting in place a global talent management system. What do we mean? What are we going to include in our potential management model? This is question number one. Question number two, which is mostly about goals and objectives. All those systems, they are dictated by the customer. Getting back to the global system. Who should be such a customer? Most likely there will be several customers. The government, businesses, those graduates, talented people will be employed by you as business people, and the academia, those who provide training to those guys. And from our viewpoint, and is exactly why we gathered here representatives of both the government and the business community. To our mind, such a sustainable system can only be based on a synergy of the three environments, the three worlds that I mentioned. Which tools are used by our company and businesses to evaluate employees' potential? On the left-hand side, you can see that most of the companies use CXL evaluation. It may appear to be pretty biased and subjective. We ask them, why? Why aren't you using any popular methodology? And there are many of them out there on the market. And many of them would answer, potential is not about competence. It should be measured in development, in the time plane. We should be sure if this or that personnel is developing or not as human capital. Since it's responsibility of HR, there should be tools in place for this particular division. Since I'm short of time, I'm going to cover everything. Approaches to potential building, capacity building. For me as a consultant, it's a very relevant topic. It's also very relevant to me as mother. My son is a school pupil, and I'm happy about his education. We are discussing potential development rather than just knowledge transfer. Most of our participants, 99+% of countries, say that capacity can only be built and potential developed in progress, in action, which is a general approach for Western companies. They require that their personnel constantly move. This local-based approach is more typical of a Russian company. An employee individual is just expelled, pushed out of his or her comfort zone to look for a proper answer. And this approach appears to be the best. And in those companies that use this approach, it yields another very important result, which is transformation of the information potential of the company in general. And with this in mind, we are thinking what needs to be done to make Russia more competitive in this sense. I'm not going to steal any more of your time. If you have any questions, I'll gladly take them. And at this, I'd like to pass it back to the moderator. Thank you very much, Anna. Pretty good start for our discussion. To build upon it, I would like to pass it over to Dmitry. He is going to cover the existing practices Rosatom relies upon, which company has a reputation of an innovative company which has successfully completed its transformation. But before we begin, I would like to warn you, each speaker is going to have between 5 and 7 minutes of time. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? My presentation is kind of special. I totally agree. Responsibility for results is the first component to be evaluated from the perspective of potential. One of those days, I spoke to one of our HR partners, a company that sells equipment for power generation plants. And they complain saying that they are facing shortage of front-end personnel, those responsible for business development, customer acquisition. I mean, folks such as their CEO who spent 4 hours in one of the European countries. He was questioned by a dozen of stakeholders from the other side, and that process was followed by the president of that country, and only after that 4-hour long exercise, a contract was signed. Therefore, the role of such front-enders is very important. Therefore, each and every strategy should also comprise this aspect. But it's not enough to find such individuals. Another important role is to make sure that they are retained, that they flourish to be successful, to yield meaningful results. Another point I'm going to make in my presentation, it will be covered by my last slide, is the factors that can make young personnel more efficient and effective on the international labor market, which includes proficiency in foreign languages. Well, of course, it's more hard skills than soft skills, a related topic. But nevertheless, I'd like to share my vision of it with you. We always want to be at the very front line, so we encourage you to join us in this effort. Not to rob you of your time anymore, I'll start my PowerPoint presentation. We are a public company, and we are not happy about the competence development process in our company. Well, the business develops on its own and pretty fast, and it's only followed by competence development, skill development, with the locomotive being at station 30 while the last car is still lagging behind. And this lag could be not very big, maybe 1 unit per several months before. Today it is much bigger, and it's measured by years. For example, we engage in building a power plant abroad, and our construction cycle is 12 years, and it includes capacity building, personnel training. However, if we need to launch an addictive technology competence center, within 1 year we will be experiencing significant challenges. You may have heard about proton therapy in cancer treatment. There is a company in Japan engaged in specializing in it, and they are ready to build dozens of such centers within a year, but because of the lack of personnel, they were forced to delay the launch of a number of their projects, cancer treatment centers with huge potential only because of the lack of sufficiently trained personnel. And we all should revisit the topic of capacity building with this in mind and modify our approaches in such a way as to be able to cope with that. Here you can see all the components of the fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0. Unfortunately, little is known about it so far. We shouldn't wait for an authentication expert to come, for example, to tell us about how a video surveillance camera should be installed to ensure proper security. You should think about it on your own to know that there is proper technology for that, to find this technology and to make decision to introduce it. An HR expert should act as a hawk, seeing its prey on time. And there is market for that, and we can be of help, always ready to give you a hand for this. This is especially relevant for state-owned companies. My point is as follows. It's not rocket science. I'm not going to steal their bread from them. Previously, it was easier. Classroom first, you go on a business trip for a couple of days, then there comes testing. The environment or ecosystem is important. We supply data to big groups of people through online courses and so forth. And later I'll give you some stats. Or Mr. Petrov, there is technology with which Mr. Petrov, who is not genius, can fulfill a task which is part of his role. Having once injected knowledge, after 20 days, only 17% of it will be left otherwise. Which brings me to just one conclusion. When discussing new programs or ideas or formats, we shouldn't compare them versus costs, namely the cost of a standard classroom training course. For example, 25,000 per person per 2 days. We will never be able to come up with business case based on this data. We should proceed from the goal of getting up from those 25% to the level that will ensure attaining our ends. Well, for example, you heard about it from me today, and you will only remember 17% of it after 27 days. The rest will be forgotten. It's in human nature. We are 25,000 people of staff. We provide training to a huge number every year. From the perspective of investment, these are some results of George Bersman's study. The slide is about budgets, how to deliver knowledge to the rest of your environment. Budgets can be huge. By the year 2025-30, it will be between 10 and 15. More than 20 billion. Today, between 10 and 15 billion is spent on programs that are about supervising content, manage. The previous model cannibalizes between 10 and 15 billion just to be managed. It's an international figure. Here you can see how much we spent. And we are only happy in 1/3 of all cases. We spent $250 billion worldwide, and only in every third case we are happy. I'm not going to pose rhetoric questions for the sake of time, but I'm not happy with this. Now, why foreign languages? In my opinion, in the opinion of my colleagues, the foreign language is going to become the first victim. Well, the way we learn foreign languages today, division learned English. Both of them gave it up. In school, I studied German, and today I only remember 3 words. Ich liebe das Spiel, ich liebe die Schule. And it takes time to learn a language. It requires several years. And we always fail to hit the target in our long-term planning. After a couple of years, we understand that this particular employee will never ever need the English language, and we have already spent thousands of dollars on teaching a foreign language to him. But another employee really needs it, and we have never paid for his training. Therefore, in choosing between what to do, capacity building on-site by offering classroom training. By the way, today there are
kind of solutions will make these solutions more realistic. So once we pilot one project, we can eventually move from learning foreign languages, and in addition to English, we have the whole bunch of other languages you can learn to apply these technologies. I think I'm done here, and if we have any questions, I will answer them. Dmitry, thank you very much. Very informative, and I believe that in the end of our discussion, we'll come back to it, but still we'll give the chance to our audience to ask a couple of questions. I guess later. Then we will give the floor to Nadezhda. Dmitry, thank you very much. It's really amazing that for about every year, a certain consulting company is doing research on the level of satisfaction of leadership potential with companies' leaders, and that number of degree of satisfaction varies from year to year, but from 70 to 80% of companies' leaders and the CEOs are saying that what they're mostly concerned about. Dmitry, thank you for sharing today that technologies are evolving, and we as HR professionals have to find some new solutions. And I guess to add oil to the fire, we can say that by the forecast of International Economic Forum, they've published a report in 2016, 35% of basic skills will drastically change in the next 5 years, simply because shelf life, the so-called the lifespan of a skill, shelf life of a skill, is now changing every 18 to 24 months. So we're basically speaking about ongoing, continuing education, and knowing that your company has a certain practices in building candidates pool, succession pool. Maybe you'll share with us about Rosatom experience. And I would like to give the floor to Natalia Prakht, the head of the Department of Appreciating People's Potential. My name is Natalia Prakht. I work in Rosatom Corporate Academy. Thank you. Dear colleagues, and this is what our candidates pool looks like. Anna Koshlova was sharing that the potential is being evaluated. That candidates' potential is evaluated either to ensure the succession strategies or identify high potential individuals. We're trying to combine the two strategies. We're asking heads of our business management, or let's say, to identify as a high only those employees who would be backed up for some managerial position, because we are working not only for managers, but this one is only for managers. If we sign up a person to the succession pool, this person should have a certain prospects for taking high position in the company, in addition to some other scoring systems. So these two processes emerge. They were isolated 3 years ago, and now it looks like by hook or by crook, through the KPI, to our HRs, and through the trying to criticize and criticizing our leadership, we have achieved that 43% of our managers are assigned from the succession pool, and I think the percentage should be up to 50% now. And in the perfect scenario, all the managers, they have to learn in the company. So we have to make a strategy. We have 3 levels of staff pool, succession pool. As you can see, we came up with a new definition of capitalism in the Rosatom company. It's a participant of the candidates pool in the mid tier, because the reserve is the capital, and the first grade is talents, and senior managers are the value of Rosatom. Starting for 2 or 3 years, even if they're named the same, they'll be a little bit differently. Dmitry has already mentioned of how carefully we calculate the time and money that was spent for employees. And as you can see, there are 12 learning days. They don't spend much time in classroom. They in class time is not much. It's like 13 days in 2 or 3 years, and we're actually invite people to the modules. So it's like 4 times 3 days each module, and we are giving them some projects. They're doing like 2 projects a year. What's most interesting thing is what is happening between the modules. It is not about listening to some funny lectures, and nice trips to Moscow. It's very intensive work in between the modules. People have to work hard. If we are teaching them marketing, and then they go and do some project related to their particular module, 2 projects each year, and give a feedback. And it's yielding the fruits. Now we can clearly identify the people who have studied in reserve from those who have not. And these graduates of the program, they're just different. You cannot hear from them some stupid things like "give us more money," for once, and provide us with orders. They do realize that they are on the forefront of the business. They have to do it. 2,300 people is the whole pool. It's, you have heard that. About a quarter a million. You cannot surprise anybody here by this size. We're quite big, though. So these 2,500 people, people who we believe that they will not quit, and they will grow and develop in the company. It's not very good when you teach someone and then they quit. Nothing unique that I'm going to share with you. It's a final slide just to show you that our potential is pretty much the same like many other companies. This magazine that we have, this journal we all have, it's an article, I think, Anna, written by you, of how a potential is being evaluated. There are 4 factors in different companies. We came up to them after getting a feedback from Sergei Kiriyenko, our CEO, and now he is working in a different company. I remember he told us that to two appraisers before even I was employed by the academy. Why are you, he told us, giving me some smarty asses? Give me people with strong will. Put them to the top of the rating. Strong-willed men and women. Because we are measuring everyone and seeing whether people who are successful in projects. But the willpower is very, very important because this is our succession pool. It's our candidates pool. We're looking at the people's ability to be a people's person, communicate. We're thinking about motivation. So when we first built this candidates pool, it was not popular in the company. Usually the managers would send into that pool those people who they didn't really need in the front lines. We would check their motivation for personal development. Are they going to study to pull off these projects? Now, everybody wants to be in this candidates pool. It's an honorary thing. Not everybody makes it. And now we're measuring motivation for managerial career. Not everybody wants to be a manager. Not everybody wants to be a CEO. And it's about these people who never been upgraded in the company yet. And we have to look whether people are ready. Do they make the well-thought-of choice? Not like, hey, you have to go to this Siberian chemical plant to head the department. No, I don't want to, such a person may say, because he or she is not ready. How do we evaluate? We have tried everything, all the popular methods. We had the full-scale assessment center. We would work the whole day. We've had business simulations, very funny and cheerful, when everybody was trying to win. Now we limit ourselves to individual interview. We have very good conversation, and people really show up, their true colors. I guess, if you speak with the person 1.5 hours, it's very rare, because we having this very thorough conversation. Everything is clear and cut, and but there is nothing unique, and I readily admit it. We're also looking so that a candidate would identify with our values. We have 6 values, and that's it. And motivation, I've mentioned about that. My last slide for my presentation. What's new? What's new? Because what I'm saying is pretty basic. Rosatom has 3 business priorities. Everybody knows it. Decreasing the cost of processes, new product portfolio, and moving this product portfolio onto the international markets. And we, as HR professionals, are helping business to achieve these 3 business priorities. We need to provide the industry with the leaders. What kind of leaders? We've identified, like it was said today here, somebody said, wild people, in special ways. There is a notion of leader entrepreneur, leader of international field, and efficiency leader, about economizing, decreasing cost, international negotiations, and inventing new products. And our bottleneck is packaging this new product. And in the same year, we would like to offer to the new people in the succession pool to become these leaders, to claim it. We thought that we have enough potential for that, but we do not want to do it via their personal evaluation or appraisal. It's my job. I do not believe that the appraiser should be a boss. I want people to understand that this is who they are and this is what they're capable of. It's a trilogy, that they could be the leaders of 3 types. And now you know more than actually the people who are in candidates pool. And we will ask ourselves for them to identify as one of the leaders of one of 3 types. And it's not only about optimizing, downsizing, or bringing things in order. It could be a project related to international cooperation and developing new products and stuff like that. And we assume that some part of our candidates will not take one of these 3 paths. In our staffing policy, it is written that we have to profile our reserves dependent on the business priorities. I do not want to put the labels. You are this kind of leader and you're that kind of leader. You guys have to identify yourselves, what kind of a leader you are in these three categories. And I think it is a matter of kind of development programs we initiate. We have to make this scheme part of each project so that not all people would understand themselves, perceive themselves, and be responsible for what they do whenever they go to the manufacturing site or making presentation. They would agree to our presentation. Our time is up. You have a lot of specific stuff, and then basically I'm done. I'm finished. We are asking you after the discussion to give the opportunity to answer questions, because I think there will be a lot of questions about the practical implementation methods for your assessment tools. I do not have any other slides, but if you're interested, please come to me and we'll talk privately on the sidelines. Now, what do we have according to our format? Q&A? Yes, we have a time for just one question. If there'll be no questions, then after the all presentations, we can have a discussion. It looks like we still have one question. My name is Veronica, and this is my question. You've been speaking a lot about your internal staffers and people in the succession pool, but according to statistics, it is known that the potential layer of your potential employees and leaders, those people who have extensive experience, those who are 45 plus. And according to statistics, these are the people of this age bracket. They are most demanded. They can find themselves really in a public sector, in different employment opportunities. So is your questions about young people or those who are 45 plus? Do you consider this strata of employees, which is now in big cohorts on the market, and it's not, and companies are reluctant for some reason to hire this kind of people? Do you consider them even to be as a potential for Rosatom company or not? You see, it doesn't written. We don't have any age limitations for the succession pool, but we usually take into the pool people who are not novices on the market. They've been on the industry at least 1 year. There is no any age limitations, constraints, because oftentimes I've heard that people are young, people, as we say in Russia, they're green, they're unexperienced. If I could just in 3 years, 3 years ago, I thought maybe let's make it a year, not 3 years. Let's shorten our educational system. Well, simply because the program is extensive, you cannot absorb it really in just 1 year. We don't have such a turnover of the candidates, and probably if people graduate in a year, they will not get their next appointment. Although we've had some cases when people are in the pool and then they want to be upgraded. We even limited this kind of upgrade and reappointment of people, because when they have a very quick promotion, people very quickly reach the threshold of their own inefficiency and get stuck. And therefore, we appreciate people of the middle age group, but in supporting functions, HR, lawyers, buyers, procurement. But as for the main function, we simply don't have. I think Natalia mentioned about very interesting issues, because on one hand, we're speaking about some universal leadership qualities, and then about the typology of the leader depending on strategic lines of businesses. Our industries differ. It's a question to Nikita Cherkasenko from Rostelecom company. What's going on in your industry? Colleagues, hello. I'm responsible for 2 things in Rostelecom, for the evaluation appraisal of the HR development, and secondly for different kind of digital services related to HR, not only about educational appraisal. And based on 7 minutes allotted to me, and you can't really share much in 7 minutes about how we built our own personnel in 2011. You'd be surprised that the company with about 2,000 employees is doing just one thing. It's routes and logistics related to providing telecom traffic, voicemails. Back then, telecom was not a client's company. We didn't have any clients. We're doing the routing of the traffic of the voice over by the main lines in between cities and international level. Now at Rostelecom, after all the M&As and corporate changes in 2012 and 13, the acquiring other companies. Now it's a group of companies with about 130 people involved in it. On top of this voice traffic, we are providing services to B2C and B2B in two very specific B2O and B2G segments: internet access services, commercial television services, IP telephony, in addition to traditional voice telephony, and everything else which is built on commodity services, virtual PPM, virtual workstations, telephone stations, data storage and processing, data transmission, and a higher level of technological services in industrial Internet of Things, and primarily in IoT. In IIoT, it's a machine learning, virtualization, machine learning, things like that. And all of a sudden, we, about 3 years ago, came to a realization. We became the client-oriented company. And we thought that if the client will define in our future, unlike us, then we will never be in just declarations. We've approved this model of values that now you can read, and basically now today we're in the state when we are killing the competence model that had been existing since 2013 because we didn't need it anymore. We have values formulated as certain modus operandi, as a certain code of conduct, written in verbs and nouns, and these are the values which we will be detailing in what we HR directors are used to in different forms through assessment functions, etc. And basically, this is a nucleus which sets certain claims, requirements for all the people. When people come to the very first interview in the company and speaking to our HR specialist or voice over recruiting, and then people get praised once again in the company. I'm not a very good artist and not a very good visualizer, but I've tried to depict that arrangement, that scheme. It's my idea of a potential, and since I'm the head, many people do share this vision in the company. The values I've shown you, you can see the pipe and the base of this pipe. This pipe or pipeline is a functional block, for example, B2C segment, or everything related to providing IT infrastructure in its development within the technical block, or for example, accounting, or a project office for industrial Internet of Things. Each functional block has this nucleus, the requirement for the values, which is reflected in corporate competences. Then some specific requirements. We spent about a year and a half to describe all that the company expects from a person in a particular job, beginning with their background, education, the way their skills, competencies, and certifications, education, specific competencies, abilities to work with different pieces of equipment. All that is functional is in addition to that value profile, which is general for the company and is split into 3 levels. We have specialists, we have top management, and middle managers, as some managerial cluster in between the two. So moving along this vertical from a specialist towards being a top manager, and taking the very first managerial position, we evaluated in a very short time frame, about 3 years, because it doesn't make any sense to go beyond. Of course, we have some people who have been in the company for 15 years or so, but for the Russian market, average employment time is 2 years, 3 months. And the main tool that we're using here is domestic instruments, potential in focus, made in Russia. And we've looked at what the main providers know on the Russian market in terms of the pricing potential. We've chosen this one, made it a standard. We're very happy about that because it gives us very good ability, discriminating ability, separating those people who would like to be a manager and those who are not because they do not want to or they cannot. Now, a bit more information. Actually, there are 4 factors, 2 of them related to what is referred to as teachability and I would say curiosity of a person. It's a desire to accept new knowledge, new picture of the world, not just as a knowledge which in 28 days will downsize to just 30%, but using this concept and other points of views that you've heard. And the second component of teachability is ability to get this knowledge, then get new information, and then to stick it in your worldview. And then there are some stories related to some specific things, namely communications, ability to communicate, and this would be the basic filter, and we're trying to make sure all of our personnel who can be leaders, they have to go through that, and we have a separate track for those who want to grow and develop. They do not want to hire people and decide on their salaries. They would like to develop for their professional vector. Unfortunately, I do not have time for that. And now, most importantly of what I wanted to share with you, going back to this pipe, we're mostly interested in the top side, what is referred to as top, and the intersection from top and the middle management. In some functional blocks, it's related to new lines of business, where Rostelecom is going to changing from the traditional operator, telecom operator, to the owner of the digital platforms, and etc. At this point of time, when we've realized that this is our potential and what should be our business focuses in the next 5 to 10 years, we've come to realization that today Rostelecom is a company. A, we don't have that technological competences needed for this transition, and B, we don't have that project management logic and products and services which are needed for this transition, and C, we don't have this wild, like you said, wild people who would be able to actually make it a reality. And having looked at how other smart people deal with this very unconventional task, having looked at some approaches to what is referred to as corporate entrepreneurship, innovative activities, managing innovative projects, and change management, we've made close ties with the Skolkovo Business School, and we've adopted a business model. Development management, the core of which is the ability to retain 3 focuses when you work on a project: technological, entrepreneurial, and the third one is organizational focus. What does it mean? Unless I will be stopped by the moderator, I will give one example. We'll give it just one more minute. And at Balakovsky in 1989, one of the first, the so-called business games, Georgy Petrovitsky, who was working there, he has identified that in any complex engineering project, the life cycle of different components, not only are they different by the length, they're also desynchronized. If we're speaking about the life cycle of such a component as human resource or staffer for the nuclear industry, the whole cycle of training of the CEO of nuclear power stations, 20 to 25 years. One energy block life cycle is 60 years, but actually sometimes 100 years, even 87 years, you name it. And in this regard, if at the stage of designing designing business or energy unit in a nuclear power station, service or product, you will not count in life cycles and their desynchronization, discrepancy of different components. If you don't understand who will be your buyer, your investor, and you cannot explain to this person the logics of why they should be investing, divesting, and not being able to pull all these guys together and show them their interest and to keep them motivated to finish such a project, nothing will work.
You can build a center having no personnel, or otherwise you can build a center, have personnel, but it's still not going to work out. It happens from time to time too, which is a great illustration to my point. Therefore, speaking about the top of the iceberg I tried to describe, our stake is on the potential of leaders, their ability to work within the logic of project-based approach. This was my last slide. Thank you very much, Nikita. It's a pretty weird situation. We engaged in discussing staffing potential, but ended up in the discussion of the various types of energy, nuclear energy, water energy, and now we are going to proceed to the next type. Nadezhda, the floor is all yours. I don't fully understand what you mean by that, but nevertheless, I'd like to answer the point of Rushydro representative and say a few words about what's going on in this industry, including our approaches to the potential and management culture, namely the extent to which the culture of our company's management helps to support those projects. Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. Thank you for your great presentations. Interestingly, this year at Gaidar, forum, a lot of attention is paid to leadership competencies of the future. And at one of the previous discussions, leadership evolution was mentioned. We can say today that if previously a regular continuous management was expected from a manager, later we returned to emotional leadership, and tomorrow it will be discussed separately. And today, so-called engineering leadership notion was introduced, and the model that you are discussing is really good to illustrate it based on planes rather than axes. The ability to build a team, ability to see the challenge or trend. It also includes management on a regular basis. I'd also like to stress the wise moderation. However, my logic differs from that of my colleagues from Rostelecom or Rosatom. I'm in search of leadership. Since our company is relatively small compared to Rosatom or Russian Railways or even Rostelecom, only 16,000, we are really geographically dispersed. We are present everywhere where there are hydropower plants. When I only joined the company, which was almost 12 years ago, I encountered a very serious demographic challenge, which is faced by all engineering companies, including this geographic distribution, closeness of our industry. Our staffing policies have always been closed. It's not possible to climb up to the summit overnight. It requires quite a career. And we were really concerned about engineering them. Nobody wanted to go there. Therefore, we were forced to do everything on our own. And in 2009, we developed a program of advanced development of our staffing potential. It sounded pretty weird. It was pointless discussing staffing potential with our engineers. They would fail to understand it. Many of them say, why should I teach him how to manage? I appoint him and then you will teach him or her. The approach that we suggested, and we suggested working with young guys coming to our company, working with them in those regions where their respective branches of our company were, and today, after 10 years, we can say that the system itself, the way it's implemented within the framework of free elevator concept, I mean working with school children, working with learning institutions, both secondary and higher, and working with young employees, this model has proved itself. And we already have employees or careers which are 10-year long. A school pupil attended our courses in school days, then graduated from a higher learning institution and then joined us. Quite a lot of companies work with third and fourth year students, but very few work with senior school pupils. And only Russian railways and ourselves work with junior school children. And they also work with kindergartners. 10,000 hours. It may appear to be not too many. Don't forget about their siesta hours. In total, it results in a decade. But anyway, we have to start very early in order to be ahead of the rest of the world in the conditions we're in today, in order to be able to build the capacity that we require in our company. That is why we start early. And in the very beginning, the most important thing is to get our children involved, interested in engineering, to help them develop engineers' minds. And as I mentioned, this process should be begun very early. If we fail to do that before they reach between 12 and 13 years of age, we are late. Those folks may be great at maths or physics, but with now engineering mind, they'll be failures as engineers. If in the first year, children with such proto-engineering capabilities, which include desire to solve problems, to be creative, those qualities are present in all children, by the 10th year, it disappears. In Caucasia, we are pretty successful, having both boys and girls. But normally, the results of the boys are higher. And in homogeneous classes, the number of such children is even bigger. The girls may be faster. Anyway, if we fail to start early, I mean shaping out interest to engineering, desire to design, to mock up, to engage in practical projects, it's not going to work out. It's doomed to fail. As our first step, we engaged in a pilot project. We started classes, mostly physics classes, but we also used history, because many countries have methodology related to water and the use of water, geography, of course, with the richness of geographic projects that we have, even safe living habits. We tell children about the Russian engineering culture. Very few people are familiar with this topic. 7th and 8th year school children come When they see turbines, they say, well, they are designed by the Americans, and they know nothing about the work done by St. Petersburg engineers. Well, we began it very early, and in the regions where there are projects and where there are talented children. There are creativity children in major cities. However, well, graduates from those cities are not going to work at Sayani and Shush water power plant. We also offer summer courses and boot camps, 2-week long, with in-depth training in physics, mathematics. Then they return to their schools, and their children, their teachers don't recognize them. We also work with orphanages, since we don't only train engineers but also workers. And who are going to be those future workers? We have such a program. Normally, migrants work as workers on projects today. You understand what they build, how to make workers' professions interesting to children. We engage in working with orphans at orphanages. And today, our children win contests in electrical engineering, electrical project installation, and so forth. We also work with secondary and higher learning institutions in order to revive methodologies which were previously used by leading chairs. We also pay a lot of attention to dedicating our own personnel to teach various subjects. Last December there was a conference on engineering, and it was revealed that only 15% of students had access to hands-on training, and very few of them eventually come to work as workers. When people come to work for a company, it brings me back to the topic touched upon by Rushydro. We don't create reserves for appointments to specific positions. Our industry is not too dynamic. There are now not too many promising projects for hydro plants. So we decided to put in place two types of reserve, hypo being one of them. We offer open contests. It is for those young men who have 1 year of practical work. It's a multiple level selection. We select that who continue their studies, and then they start working, and they build their capacity. After they have started working in companies, they develop themselves, and there is also functional reserve. It was put in place for positions at our water power plants, not for Sayano-Shushenskaya water plant, hydro plant specifically, but for all of them. Therefore, today we are pursuing quite a systemic approach, allowing getting children involved, interested, especially in the regions, offering them bridges to get proper education, come to companies, and work in those companies quite successfully and efficiently. Thank you very much for your insight. Thank you. You are right. We should start early in order to get the kind of leaders that we were discussing at the beginning of our session. I'd like to pass it over to Dmitry Gorodetsky as representative of higher learning. Instead of discussing higher learning, I would like to cover just three aspects. We remember the words from Vladimir Vysotsky's song. Those most active normally experience most impediments. For several years, I was in charge of Domodedovo administration. We know that the path from a spermatozoid to a people's artist must be made as soon as possible. That's a joke, of course. I'm going to cover three aspects. The first one is territorial, the second one relates to schools, and the last one to higher learning institutions. In Moscow Oblast, we have more than 1 million school children, almost 2 million together with kindergartens. Mr. Ryabova, our governor, is personally in charge of working with youth, young talents, spending at least of 20% of his time on young people. We have a huge number of mass organizations, celebrities in the various industries. All the things are intermingling. There are dedicated systems for that in each municipality, and the weight, the share of that responsible for dealing with it, and the government is growing continuously. We receive a lot of very interesting proposals from young people. We have 68 big municipalities. Based on my Domodedovo experience, I would like to discuss the corporate aspect, which was discussed in last but one issue of the Forbes by Dmitry Kamenshek, chairman of the board of Domodedovo Airport. You may have seen his portrait, dual portrait with President Trump. By the way, the first one was Buck Rogers, vice president of IBM, who said that at least one half of the time must be spent by any top manager on capacity building and personal development. He spends a lot of his time, and his business day is up to 20 hours, is spent on looking for talents. Colleagues, don't forget that we only have 40 minutes left. Our pre-talk system, inflow system, it covers 2,000 children. We have developed the methodological part of it and organizational part of it based on several colleges and universities. 16,000 people in the annual rotation can vary dependent on technology, but this system does work, especially where work skills are required. Last year, we were awarded 10 gold medals for work skills, even at international contests, in Brazil, for example. This approach has proven itself, and it's really good that workers' professions are becoming so important. Now to higher learning. Less than a year ago, I became head of municipal university for retraining of municipal and regional level leaders. The decision was made by the government to pass to let on lease Odintsova campus to all major. Currently, the Odintsova campus is used as incubator for talent development. We are held by MGIMO, International Affairs University. Foreign languages are taught there among other subjects. All simultaneous interpretation at St. Petersburg Economic Forum was provided by our trainees from GIMO. We don't only provide training to future diplomats, teaching languages and communication skills and strategic skills and planning skills and so on and so forth. Although the university is 70 years old, which is not long, it is now part of important ratings, and the 5 by 100 program is extremely important today. Last year, GIMO leaped over 350 positions, and its current rating is very good. Of course, it's not as high as that of Moscow State University, but it's still very good. And we are happy not only to provide training to future diplomats, but also for the oil and gas industry, companies such as Rosneft. In Moscow Oblast, there are very many projects which are extremely interesting from the investment perspective. We are good in terms of our investment attractiveness and life standard. I apologize. I'm going to steal 1 minute of your time to be spent on this topic. We've heard a number of business cases from different companies, different practices, but I'd like to remind you of the main topic of our today's discussion, which is the ability to build global talent management system in Russia. I'd like to say thank you to Elena Aksenova. The example that you offered shows us an end-to-end talent management system, which is a unique example for Russia. Based on your experience, what can be scaled out in the context of putting in place such universal talent management system in Russia? Or is it just an industry-level case, and businesses should be responsible for their own talent management processes? I'm sure that our experience can be expanded. We have already replicated it in 16 regions. Our Moscow-based employees also wish their children to be part of this process. Well, I think that early informing and awareness programs should be scaled out to educate parents, to educate grandparents. Some time ago in Kudrinsk, I was holding a workshop devoted to energy production, and I was approached by a physics teacher who said, "Now I understand that my son should go to study and work in the energy sector as an engineer, which she had never considered before." Getting children interested in different professions is very important. By the way, our work with orphanages has proved to be great as candidate to be combined with other approaches. With some children, you can talk about energy. With others, you can talk about cooking and so on, offering choice. Another important topic is targeted skill building, not only for hard skills for engineers, but also soft skills, which is quite a significant problem for modern schools. We always discuss collaboration, is broadly discussed in Davos, but this discussion is not present in schools. And a third very important topic is pre-college or pre-university training. Some of the school children need to be specially trained to be able to make it to universities or colleges, especially those from orphanages. And tutors can play a very important role in this. They may be great kids, they are really interested and motivated, but their respective schools are just not able to get them prepared to become college or university students. And basic capacity development in this area is necessary, and this can be done by any company. There are interested companies in St. Petersburg, for example, especially that who are interested, who feel demand for staffing. I'd also like Unilever to share with us their vision of talent management. Tatiana Sorokina. Good afternoon, colleagues, or even good evening. My name is Tatiana Sorokina, and I'm HR manager of Unilever. And I'd like to share with you our approaches to talent and skill evaluation, namely how they have been changing over the period of my work for my company. We start looking at the potential very early at the level of personnel selection, which does not differ us from any other previous speaker. We also focus on working with higher learning institutions. At our master classes and workshops, we share information about our professional skill requirements and competencies. We also tell about our capacity building programs designed to transform graduates into potential leaders. Why is this program important? We do not confine ourselves to the managerial level. We are looking at the top management level, future CEOs, CXOs, an individual starting working for us as graduate to become a successful mid-level manager, to be followed by becoming a successful top manager. This is our utmost goal, to become part of this program. Candidates pass through special selection process, but the selection methods do change continuously. And we as HR people understand that we should look for such folks where this potential is present. Normally, those people are quite professional, high-tech, and with this in mind, we change our approaches. If 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we would mostly do telephone interviews with recruiters, this year we would like to mostly rely upon digital technologies such as video interviews, video conferences, to be able to analyze feedback with the use of artificial intelligence at a very early stage.
When the guys have passed successfully to be the part of the program, the next question is how do we develop them? Because the program goes for 2.5 years. Somebody asked me about the timelines. And I would like to say that when you speak to the CEOs, directors, they think, oh, 3 years, 2.5 years is not enough. 3 years is enough to grow up a manager. When you talk to the guys, they evaluated about a year or a year and a half or 2 years when they would like to complete the program. We do have cases when after 1 year people have made up their mind and went off to open their own business. Yes, the program was a boost, but we as HRs, we have to understand that the young people would like to grow rapidly, and we have to have such programs. with which we would be able to accommodate both businesses and themselves. The main method for each person who has made it into the program, there is a rotation plan, and they begin to go from one department to the other department, and we begin to rotate them between the department. And why do they grow into managers? Because they get a holistic picture of the business. They work in the marketing and sales department, in supply department, so they get this practical experience. One of you mentioned that it's important for a potential employees not only to grow linearly, but to give them some broad scope of understanding. It is also important for people not just to do some artificial projects, but the real-life challenges and assignments. So their very first rotation is that we are sending them to sales department, and they're working on par with regular sales employees and get their first experience in the company. Another thing I would like to share is the human potential assessment tool. We're using it both for these guys and or for other managers and even for potential employers. This model of human potential appraisal, well, the previous speakers have shared some of their model, and I could see a lot of commonalities between it. This model is not our invention. It has been developed for us by YSC company, but in close partnership. Before launching this instrument within the company, we've done a research just how close this instrument is to our business goals. GDI is the name of it. It's an abbreviation, Judgment, Drive. I've seen it in some other speakers would say the same, and Influence. These are three focus areas. In each, we have a very detailed description of indicators by which people can evaluate themselves and manager can evaluate themselves. And so they come to these development areas where we need to focus to grow their potential. And what I would like to say about this tool, GDI, that we have launched it about 2 or 3 years ago. And first, it is used for a limited number of people, those who, by managers' opinions, have a good potential. Now, we came to conclusion that the whole notions of a potential or career is much wider. Not only young people or not so young people, mid-career employees, they're looking not only for their vertical movement, but also for horizontal experience in the company. Therefore, what do we do right now? We are using this instrument for a bigger number of people in our companies, and I guess I'm going to wrap up my presentation because Dmitry has already talked about that, and I just wanted to say that we are using this very tool. He was sharing about the model in an environment, in a certain media, in a classroom. We call it 70-20-10 model. It's actually universal, not by Unilever, and I totally back up what Dmitry has mentioned already, because 10% they don't stay in the hand. So within this model, we place emphasis on those assignments which are carried out by the employees as they develop. And another application is when we're making quite risky decisions because we believe that this person has a potential. And let's say a young employee, like in certain experience, we're giving him or her a wider role because we believe that they are going to expand their capabilities. This is it. This is it. Very interesting notion and comment. And this whole idea, not only to find leaders and to bring them up, but also to retain leaders, find some compromise, and your kind of custom-tailored approach to retain these people, even to give them opportunity to show themselves, that'll be a very good observation for further study. Let's listen now. Dear colleagues, let's give the opportunity to the other panelists, and then we will have another half an hour for Q&A, so that we'll be able to interact with our audience. Let's listen one more example. It's a Severstal company. Please share with us on how you work with human potential. How do you interact with universities, and what are your practices? Anna? Hello, I'm responsible for leadership program in Severstal company. It's the company of attracting young professionals, graduates, and high posts. Frankly, it's not easy to speak after other presenters, because our goal is quite similar and practices are largely the same. This is why they are the best. And now I would like to share about this particular program, because it's a new program in Severstal company. It's a new program for the industry, I believe. And it's also based on best global practices in attracting talents and retaining them. I'll begin with the goal. The goal of the program is to fill up our domestic, our internal pool of candidates, succession pool. We have a lot of practices in developing this pool of candidates or staffing pool to pour in fresh blood, so to speak. And as for the more practical goal is to attract into the company the graduates with high potential to be a part of the leadership program. And why do we need it? We need it for these people within 5 or 7 years to make it into the top 100 succession pool, or even be employed in these jobs. So we've seen such examples in our company, by the way, that it is not an exception, but it's not a very common practice. So we understand it is possible, and I would like to make it a reality and expand people's capabilities. The program and the whole idea behind it, and the main internal customer is our shareholder, who is heavily involved in all the aspects to the program, beginning with communication and all the way to selection. So possibly it is through his interest and his mission that is helping us to pull it forward. The program now is on the stage of pilot implementation, and it's taking place on our metallurgical assets, main of which is a Cherkasenko metallurgical plant, metal processing plant. What it's all about? It takes 2 years, 4 rotations, 2 years each, and each stage goes for about 6 months. And stages are all different, because the program kicks off with, the very first 2 stages, they are mandatory and they're identical for all the program participants. The other 2 are variables depending on the targeted career track of each candidate or program participant. And basically, the personal profiles and the education of participants, it matters only for 2 tracks. And as for the others, we're just simply evaluating human potential without limiting ourselves to any specific education, especially in the work of the metal processing. So the stage 1 and 2 would be the placement, or 6 months of experience in the center of developing business of Severstal company. The main goal of this stage is, on one hand, to adapt a person that it's a stage 1, people get acquainted to the company, its corporate culture, practices, and people. But on the other hand, it's a division which is about boosting efficiency of the company, certain culture backbone or instrumental backbone of the company, so that the guys would learn how to and even try to implement different projects using the efficiency raising instruments that we have in our company. Then at this stage they are learning and trying and observing. Then next stage it's on-the-job placement. They run their own project for which they are fully responsible. They would come to a production site, division, could be any workshop, as a part of the metallurgical process, and it's not like the ovens and the kilns. They don't work at actual production, but they're working on the side of quality development, and they're thinking about the whole production processes through the efficiency lens. There are two goals. First, they have to see what metallurgical production is in reality, as a matter of fact. Because now when they come to our company, people have different illusions, different ideas about this, and people may not understand what the process is all about. So another goal, not only to understand what the process is all about, they can find some inadequacies and find some ways to solve them. The second thing, I would like to run ahead of myself, so you can actually see different tracks, what kind of tracks will be, what kind of stages they will pass, depending on their target function in the company. If we are planning that an individual will go into procurements, they've been at the production side, and they have to learn finances. They have to see how we do planning in the company, how we do with material flows and so forth, what kind of systems, or if he or she will be working in sales in addition to BSS and production. They could be working in the planning department, also in financial department, and a little bit in production side to understand what should be the product line and the product that a person is going to later work with. And the finalizing stage would be the last stage in that target function that the person is aiming for. In a nutshell, this is the program. Upon completion, a person is coming to their expected function, begin working in this capacity. There is no special functionality, but a real business challenge, which would be relevant for this department. But this whole background that they may have received before is helping them to look at their functionality somewhat differently, to be more efficient, to see the context in a more systemic way, and to build relations with people somewhat differently. These are the key factors that helps to those managers who are in 5-7 years made it into top 100 reserve pool and be successful. And in addition to that, these kind of supportive elements to develop the people in the program and other factors. Of course, it's training, first of all, instruments, communications, developing leadership capabilities. Of course, each of them have their own personal development plan and their own goals. They're a bit different from the common practice. They have their development plan and the goals for their rotation, and then it kind of translates into an annual format. And each person has a mentor passing over expertise of a specific department and a career mentor from this top 100 pool, who are working on developing their leadership competences, one or several, depending on what this person lacks, helping him or her to find to solve some issues related, say, to communication, project management, etc. So each person is supervised by such a career guide, so to speak, who is helping them to get a result. And of course, There are some different events when people can share experience and talk to their managers, ask questions, to express, show themselves. And do you have any results of the program? It has started at the end of November. That's why I'm saying it's a pilot still. This year we have been planning to enroll 22 people. Not many, but not few on the other hand. I'll skip through some slides and we'll say what the functionality looks like for each of the rotation. They have current tasks. That is, we do not create any artificial goals. They come to the procurement department. And Anna, 1 more minute only. And they have to understand what procurements are, how does it work, what kind of suppliers, what kind of programs, how do you place orders. It's a systemic look at the process and try to do some work. And the other 50% would be that project-related assignment when they look for inefficiencies and then come up with a proposal to fix that inefficiency and present their idea. And location is the city of Cherkasenko. We are looking for these kind of people the world over, and we have to offer them some good conditions, competitive packages, competing with other proposals on the market like Unilever and other companies represented in this panel. These are the basic things. Then the question is how to enroll into a program. If you would like to be a part of it, I can, on a separate note, give you more ideas about that. Anna, thank you very much. I believe that on individually on the sidelines, you will be able to ask and talk to each of the speakers. Now we would like to give the floor to the last speaker. It's a perspective of an education. Marina Karban, the director of the Corporate Programs Department in Skolkovo School. I will not be giving any presentation. I'm very pleased to finish up this panel discussion, especially since it's represented by the partner companies, and which makes our school what it is today. All that has been said by the companies is basically what I wanted to say, and therefore I will just add very few things. We've been talking and discussing of what could be added to the international experience. And we've checked what kind of trends and competences in terms of talent development are the obvious emerging trend. You may have heard these tests. And of course, these trends have already been articulated. It's a digital transformation, 4.0 industry, change of a human, change of the human life cycle, and of course, all competences are supportive of these trends. And if we'll take a look at the research that we have done in LinkedIn, which is no longer available in Russia. Oh, somebody said that you can actually bypass it. You can use our LinkedIn. Well, I didn't make it to this conference in vain. I actually learned how to bypass the Google ban, or sorry, the LinkedIn ban. So we've checked what would be the competences most popular, most paid for in the last 10 years in international corporations and in Russian corporations. If you look at the international arena, they're all related to soft skills and what has been repeatedly mentioned here. And for the Russian corporations, hard competences, mainly finances, because the companies had been growing by M&A, economics, and where we would match this would be operational management and project development. If you look at the set of competences which are now show promise and those who will yield more money, even the names of these competences are hard to even say because they are on the crossroads of digitalization with different soft and oh, actually, somebody helped me with the clicker. Thank you. I've decided not to use it, but just in case, if you'll want to check out my slides, these are 15 skills which are necessary for a successful career. and which are most likely to be in demand and well paid for. What do we see and how can we translate them into competencies? I can give you my presentation if you want. Again, you can break them up into meta competences, subject matter, and professionals who work with professionals. And the subject matter competences, the room for growth for us as a Skolkovo, because we're also, as an industry, impacted by these changes. It's an ability to concentrate, to manage your attention. It's a stress. It's a stress management and lifelong learning. And we, as a school, we took notice of this trend. We already have children's programs. So far, it's an experiment and a research project. We have Startup Junior, and we are trying to assess a potential. You may know that one of our main focus areas is entrepreneurship, and we're trying to understand when this skill is beginning to express itself in kids and what we've seen at the kids defend presentations. I've even sent my kids. They don't have any limits, I have to tell you. They are already in these new competences that LinkedIn is writing about, and as Lena said, at some point these competences begin to be formalized. We've checked on what is going on with people of 55 and 60, 65 plus, so we got an idea to do something for the silver age. We launched a research for this age bracket. But summing up all of that, I would like to say that if our discussion today is about some universal. How can we judge the universality of a potential? Then of all of the program, corporate and regional, I would single out some key things, as I believe. It's working with future. It always shows you promise, and it gives a person an opportunity to see the opportunity, because talents are always on the lookout for opportunities. It's the personal growth and development through the activity, and we as a school understand there is no other way. We have to start in a public schools. Actually, it was a good idea in our public school curricula, which is not used now. It's abandoned. We're experimenting with that. I mean, work in teams, in project-specified teams, and we are again speaking about the interdisciplinary, intercultural teams. Today, at one of our sections, I've given an example. When we held an international youth forum, we've built an international teams. We've taken teams of different language groups and different types of thinking. China, Germany, Italy, Russia, the CIS countries, and I have to say that the most terrific results were shown when we would mix the kids. Making international teams. When I would work in the mono-country teams, yeah, it was great, but there would be no breakthroughs. But as soon as I would say, okay, now we're working with the future. What is the future of energy? And it's about these international teams that we could see some incredible breakthroughs. It's working on yourself, self-development. We have our graduates. You know that we are working a lot with the people's self-determination, setting purpose, and trying to understand what you have to do to be a success, to make your goals in reality, and to build up professional and private potential. I think these are the 4 key aspects which are universal, and they do not depend on affiliation to a particular country. I think this is it. I think that we now can ask and answer several questions. Let's give a couple more minutes to our panel, and then we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for the Q&A. My name is Vladimir. I am a public activist, and here's my question. The true talents that many people appeal to, they have negative perspective on any forms of them trying to make a self-determination, to identify what's their purpose in life. They're finding themselves, finding their way in their project. But in our country, where any initiative is punishable, they see, okay, I cannot actualize my potential, and they emigrate, they leave the country. And I believe that we have to make a scientific research about such talents which are self-determined, self-seeking, which cannot find themselves in Russia, actualize, and they leave. Secondly, all the technologies which we have been discussing, I believe that it's a choice of very capable leaders but not talented. Sometimes there's an aptitude and a talent. Yes, they're apt for something, but they're not talented. If you're apt for something, you're making your career, and then you're becoming a regular employee. You're capable, you're good. I'm sorry, we don't have any time. But a talented person is a person who is trying to find their own way. Thank you. We may have very good system without any personal initiative. Thank you for your question. I would like to give the floor to Tatiana. Tatiana, basically, it was not a question, but a statement. There were two statements. You can agree or disagree with the statement. Excuse me, but I could not hear any question. Well, I was supposed to be a speaker at this panel, but since we do not have time, can you please pull up my presentation? No, I'll be standing here. Thank you, I'm fine. Could you please pull up my slides? Colleagues, we've heard a lot today, and as we finish up this discussion and having listened to different experiences by Rosatom company and answering the questions, can we build a system on a national-wide system working with talents and leaders of the future? I will share what we are doing today, and I believe that our experience, please give me a clicker, experience proves that it's not only on the industrial level, on a business level you can build such a system, but you can indeed change your approach to education and changing the system in the country. Rosatom Corporation, like Dmitry said, Natalia, have been working with the youth very intensively because the main set of external candidates is taken from the cohorts of graduates of different colleges, universities. About 1,500 people are coming to our group of companies, and our goal is to make sure that there will be inflow of highly qualified and high potential employers with a given quality and quantity. So that, God forbid, the nuclear power station stops, and because we don't have enough employees. And when it comes to practices and systems, my topic for today was as an example of educational formats in terms of selections of high potential graduates. What I would like to share today, dear colleagues, some time ago, our ex-CEO Sergei Kiriyenko had mentioned that he would like to see high-power employees, and though anybody who would come to our industry, and for him, talents or high-potential employees is not only the person who corresponds to meet all of our requirements, like it was mentioned by Natalia and Dmitry, but also such expectation as working for a client, being client-oriented, known with customers, being able to build economic foundations of your activity. It doesn't matter who are you, a nuclear power station operator or the milling machine operator. So we decided to develop such formats through which we would be able to pre-select students and graduates for our companies, and at the same time to to educate them, to give them practical knowledge, and immersing them in the environment. Once they get offer from some of our competitions and pre-selection, we have good cases of engineering business contests, as we refer to them, the goal of which is to work on particular tasks and challenges. Just to give you an example, we have a case, it's a development of the generator tower, the one which generates energy. And while several years ago, for a student who has been studying in the main partner universities, that would be a purely engineering task. Now the students who would like to come to our companies, they know that on top of thinking about a good engineering solution, you also have to provide some economic effect, because the winning teams are not those who are building the coolest generator towers, but the companies or the competitors whose units give most energy in the least amounts of money, for the least amounts of money. So through these kind of contests and competitions, we are training our target audience to our new requirements and expectations. Secondly, we have begun on a regular basis to do this kind of formats in our partner universities. And in this year, in the Moscow Physics University, as a part of one course, such engineering contest was a part of the laboratory hands-on work for our future employees. So we have streamlined, and the teaching staff is absolutely accelerated, and the students are thrilled because they understand that they're getting hands-on knowledge and boost in this 15% in terms of practice, and in terms of us as a customer, we are getting maximally possible prepared candidates for our companies. I guess this is it, because I don't think any time is left. Thank you very much.
May I introduce a very short comment? Oh, well, it's pretty clear to us what you're doing. This entire scheme was born in working with the technology divisions of Rosatom. And today we see great opportunities and potential for the creation of new competencies somewhere at the interface of managerial and engineering skills. There is nothing to be created from scratch. In fact, we are giving birth to new knowledge. While the potential of previously existing knowledge is almost over. When evaluating human potential, when we select people, it's very important to work with the potential of the organization itself. Otherwise, we will never know what's up there. Well, our successful introduction of this format was in Nithi when we worked with the faculty and those who made through are actually an answer to the questions that you're posing. There was another comment from Dmitry. Colleagues, if I may. Looking at all these presentations, the differences are in details. There may be different models, but everything is pretty explicit. It's like with the English loan. No point in planning paths. I'll give you an example. Last December, we made our first attempt to appoint successors of top managers. Probably our choices for division managers were wrong. But some top manager said, don't worry. When time comes to actual appointments, some other people will be appointed. Some time ago, we gave up appointing successors, and we departed from the situation when it would be said we are only appointing them because they are the best of the worst ones. So I suggest that we get back to preliminary appointments of successors 1.5 years in advance, for example. If you're successful over this period of time, it is a great result. I'd also like to add something, getting back to one of the points made here. When it was mentioned that corporations and higher learning institutions came to schools, I think it's extremely important in terms of capacity building and talent searching. The most recent issue of the magazine would say that the majority of those who get healthcare services abroad prefer to send their children to our local learning institutions to study. Do you remember Gorchakov, who studied together with Pushkin? Pushkin was number 26 then, and Gorchakov became chancellor. I think that the future belongs to this kind of integration. Let's get back to the kindergartens mentioned by Rushydro. We have to train people starting from cradle. We have run out of our time. Normally, there are plenty of questions related to details, specific cases of companies at such sessions. We are not saying goodbye. If you have any more questions, you can ask them offline. Our objective today was discussing how universal the leadership model was, and we heard from our speakers that there were very similar overlapping models. But in spite of this, a new model is coming on stage. Getting back to the report of the Global Economic Forum, according to which 65% of today's school children would come to jobs which do not exist today. Another question that we discussed was the scalability of approaches and partnership among those approaches. The dialogue between the government, the corporations, businesses, all those attempts of search are concentrated in the private sector as well as in the domain of higher learning. And universities are not reluctant to come to schools together with businesses. And they make businesses part of their education process. We have already identified trends, and I suggest that we continue working in the same direction. I'm looking at Victor and Anna. Maybe you want to add something. Colleagues, I'll try to be brief. I'd like to say thank you indeed to all the participants of this discussion. It was extremely interesting and educational. Just one conclusion. Scalability is possible, and there are universal models that can be replicated and copied. But we should thoroughly account for specificities of individual leaders and specific features of individual enterprises with their unique cultures. I think that all those presentations will be made publicly available. I encourage you to familiarize yourselves with them more in depth. Thank you very much. We're just in the very beginning. Thank you.